The smoke reaches you before the flames do. That's the detail they never mention when they tell Joan of Arc's story. Rouen, France, May 30th. Eten Sebasenchii. You're 19 years old, tied to a wooden post in the marketplace. And you can smell the oil-soaked kindling piled around your feet. But what you notice first isn't fear, it's the crowd. Thousands of faces staring at you with a mixture of excitement and righteousness. They genuinely believe watching you burn will cleanse their souls, that your screams will somehow bring them closer to God. And in the final seconds before the executioner throws the torch, you understand something that history textbooks will never teach. This isn't about heresy or witchcraft or any of the charges they invented. This is about what happens when a woman threatens men who've convinced themselves that God speaks only through them. The torch falls, the kindling catches, and now you learn what burning actually means. Not the quick Hollywood death where you scream once and collapse. No, the fire starts at your feet, heating the air around you until every breath scalds your lungs. Your hair ignites before your skin does. The smell overwhelming. Then the nerves in your feet begin sending pain signals so intense your brain can't process them all. It feels like being skinned and boiled simultaneously. But here's the cruelest part, the smoke. Thick, toxic, choking. It blinds you before the flames reach your face. Your last moments of consciousness are spent in darkness, hearing the crowd cheer while you suffocate. Witnesses reported that Joan screamed for a cross to be held high so she could see it through the flames. Think about that. 19 years old, dying in agony, and using her last breath not to curse her executioners, but to search for meaning in the horror. This is the history they buried. Not because it's ancient, because it's uncomfortable. For centuries, women's bodies weren't personal property. They were battlefields where patriarchal society enforced power through systematic violence disguised as justice, morality, and religious purification. Today, we're not telling fairy tales. We're descending into the actual mechanisms, legal, technological, social, that European civilization developed specifically to control, punish, and terrorize half its population. And if you think understanding medieval torture of women is just morbid curiosity, you're missing the point. Because the systems that created these devices, the logic that justified them, the fear that motivated them, the complicity that sustained them, these patterns keep reappearing. Different tools, same underlying mechanisms. Let's start with why burning became the preferred execution method for accused witches. It wasn't random cruelty. It was theology weaponized. Medieval Christianity taught that fire purified souls, that flames burned away sin. So burning heretics and witches wasn't just execution, it was forced salvation. The church literally claimed they were saving your eternal soul by destroying your temporal body. This theological justification made the brutality not just acceptable, but holy. Executioners weren't murderers, they were agents of divine mercy. The crowds weren't sadists, they were witnesses to sacred ritual. Once violence gets sanctified this way, its scale becomes limitless because participants believe they're serving God, not satisfying bloodlust. But who got burned? The official charge is witchcraft, heresy. Consorting with demons disguised the actual targets. Widows who inherited property men wanted healers who possessed medical knowledge threatening male physicians. midwives who knew about contraception and abortion, women who refused marriage proposals from powerful men, anyone who'd made an enemy willing to file accusations. The witch hunts that swept through Europe from roughly 1450 to 1750 CE killed an estimated sicher, ling 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 da losher, 000 people. Approximately 75-80% of them women. These weren't random acts of mob violence. They were systematic campaigns with legal frameworks, professional witch finders earning commissions per conviction, standardized interrogation procedures, and theological texts like the Malleus Maleficarum, providing intellectual justification for gender-specific persecution. Think about what this means for survival in such systems. You couldn't protect yourself by being innocent. Accusations alone were sufficient. You couldn't appeal to reason because the entire framework was designed to manufacture guilt, torture, extracted confessions. Confessions justified more torture. The system fed itself. The survival strategies that emerged weren't about proving innocence. They were about avoiding accusation entirely through strategic invisibility. Don't be too beautiful provokes envy. Don't be too ugly suggests demonic influence. Don't be too wealthy. Inheritance motivates accusations. Don't be too poor. Desperation suggests devil's bargain. Don't know too much about healing witchcraft. Too little ignorance permits. Demonic possession. Basically, don't exist in any way that might attract attention. This is how systematic persecution works. It makes normal existence dangerous. But burning killed too quickly for some purposes. When authorities wanted prolonged punishment that could be displayed publicly for extended periods, they developed devices specifically targeting female identity. Enter the scold's bridle, an iron cage locked around the head with a metal plate shoved into the mouth to press down the tongue. But that plate wasn't smooth. It was often covered with spikes or a sharp blade. Try to swallow, the spikes tear into tongue muscle, filling your mouth with blood. Try to move your tongue to speak, immediate laceration. You're forced into complete silence, choking on your own blood and saliva. The physical pain was just half the punishment. The bridle destroyed dignity. These masks were often shaped like donkey ears, pig snouts, or devil horns. The woman wearing this heavy iron cage was chained and led through town like an animal. Neighbors who greeted you yesterday now point, laugh, throw filth at you. You cannot speak to defend yourself. You cannot explain. You are being publicly transformed from human to beast. And what was the crime requiring this punishment? Being too loud, nagging, having opinions, contradicting male authority. Historical records from 16th, 17th century England and Scotland document hundreds of scold's bridle applications. These weren't aberrations. They were routine social control mechanisms targeting female speech. The message was explicit. Silence is survival. Your voice is dangerous. Speaking out of turn transforms you into an animal deserving public humiliation. The psychological impact lasted far longer than the physical wounds. Women who'd been bridled often refused to speak publicly for years afterward. Even after the device was removed, the trauma conditioned them into permanent submission. That's the brilliance of this torture. It didn't just punish speech. It eliminated the capacity for speech through induced terror. And the community complicity was essential. For the bridle to work as social control, everyone had to participate. the blacksmith who forged it, the magistrate who ordered it, the crowd that gathered to watch, the neighbors who laughed and threw garbage. Each person's participation validated everyone else's, creating collective responsibility that made the system unquestionable. If everyone agrees this is just punishment for being a scold, then questioning it means positioning yourself as the next target. If fire purified and iron muzzles silenced, water served as judge and executioner combined through logic so twisted it guaranteed death regardless of outcome. The ducking stool, a giant seesaw placed by a river or pond. The accused woman was strapped into a chair at one end. Men controlled the lever at the other. 1, 2, 3 down. The chair plunged into freezing, murky water. Water rushed into nose, ears, lungs. Panic set in as oxygen was stolen. Then they pulled her up, allowed one gasping breath, and plunged her down again. Repeated until the victim was half dead or drowned. The witch test logic was perfect entrapment if she floated. The pure water rejected her, meaning she was a witch and must be executed. If she sank and drowned, she was innocent. Congratulations on your posthumous exoneration. This wasn't just torture, it was judicial theater with predetermined outcomes. The trial's purpose wasn't determining guilt, but demonstrating authority's power to define reality. If we say floating proves witchcraft, then floating proves witchcraft. If we say drowning proves innocence, then drowning proves innocence. The accused had no agency in determining the outcome. Her survival or death depended entirely on physics she couldn't control and interpretations she couldn't influence. This is what totalitarian justice looks like: procedures that appear to offer fairness, while guaranteeing predetermined results. Understanding this pattern helps you recognize when contemporary legal systems are operating through similar logic, when the process itself is designed to validate conclusions already reached, when evidence serves to confirm rather than test accusations. But if you think public executions were the worst fate, you're wrong. Some punishments were designed not to kill, but to destroy identity while keeping victims alive, as permanent warnings. The breast ripper, also called the iron spider, was used on women accused of adultery or unmarried mothers. It was a metal clamp with sharp claw-like prongs, usually heated red-hot over coals before use. The executioner would clamp these burning talons onto the woman's breast, symbol of motherhood and femininity. Then, with violent jerk, they pulled backward. Red-hot metal met soft tissue. Not just burning. Amputation. The claws tore through skin, fat, muscle, physically ripping the breast from the chest wall. Blood poured out mixed with smell of burnt flesh. The victim was left with gaping, ragged wound. In medieval Europe's filthy conditions, infection was guaranteed. Bacteria ate deep into the chest cavity, causing slow whys, agonizing death by fever and sepsis over weeks. But even if the victim survived, and some did, the punishment achieved its symbolic purpose. It erased the woman's identity as mother, transformed her into walking scar, living warning to others. This wasn't about punishing specific crimes. It was about controlling female sexuality and reproduction through terror. The breast ripper attacked the physical symbol of motherhood while making reproduction impossible through disfigurement and trauma. Women who survived couldn't nurse children, couldn't fulfill the maternal role medieval society claimed was their only legitimate purpose. They became living contradictions, women rendered incapable of being women by the very society, demanding they be nothing but women. The Spanish donkey took this body destruction logic even further. Simple design wooden beam shaped like triangle with sharp edge pointing up, standing on 4 legs like a horse. That sharp edge was the saddle. The woman was stripped naked and forced to straddle the sharp wooden ridge. Her entire body weight rested on her most sensitive area, the crotch. But gravity wasn't working fast enough for torturers. So they tied heavy iron weights to her ankles. Physics became the enemy. As weights pulled down, sharp wood sliced through skin, muscle, nerves, grinding against pelvic bone. The pain wasn't quick strike, it was slow. Deep invasion, splitting the body from bottom up. The victim couldn't close legs, couldn't stand, couldn't move. Struggling made wood cut deeper. Many women were permanently crippled, unable to walk again. Or they died from massive blood loss and infection right there. This device turned the simple act of sitting into lethal torture. And the symbolism was explicit. Women's sexuality is dangerous. Must be literally destroyed. The Spanish donkey was used primarily during the Inquisition on women accused of sexual crimes, adultery, prostitution, seduction. The punishment attacked the body part associated with the alleged crime, operating through logic of proportional justice that was actually just sadism disguised as moral consistency. Historical records suggest the device was used throughout Spanish territories from roughly 1700s. Though documentation is fragmentary because church authorities often destroyed torture records after victims died. If being split from outside wasn't enough, the pear of anguish was designed to destroy from inside. Metal device shaped like a pear, consisting of leaves that expanded when a screw was turned. For women accused of adultery or sleeping with the devil, the pear was inserted into private orifices or sometimes the mouth. Once cold metal was inside, the torturer turned the key. Slowly. Metal leaves opened, expanding far beyond the body's natural limits. Muscles stretched to breaking point. Then snapped. The pear wasn't designed to kill instantly. It was designed to mutilate internally. It tore soft tissue, ruptured organs, broke jawbones if used in mouth. The pain came from inside out, a place you cannot touch, cannot soothe. Ultimate violation of bodily integrity. Historical authenticity of the pear of anguish is disputed. Some scholars argue it was rarely, if ever, used as described. That surviving examples were actually veterinary instruments misidentified by later collectors. But whether widely employed or just threatened, its documented existence in torture, museums, and historical texts proves a pathological desire to humiliate and control women through invasion of the most private body spaces. The threat alone served purposes, making women understand that no part of their bodies was safe from state or church authority. That privacy didn't exist for those accused of crimes. That bodily integrity was privilege that could be revoked. Even if the device was more psychological weapon than routine practice. The psychology it weaponized reveals everything about how medieval authorities understood female bodies as property to be penetrated, controlled. destroyed when deemed necessary. Finally, the iron chair. If you think sitting is resting.